All right. So what's next is why am I not allowed to sell my DX7?
Why not, Don?
Now, why don't you tap the DX7, show the audience which one my DX7 is.
This is the DX7.
Yep. And that's a Yamaha DX7 that would have come from somewhere between 1983 and 1987, I think, was the era they were manufacturing them. Because then after that came the DX7 II. And that was the synthesizer that killed analog polysynths.
The DX7 was.
The Yamaha DX7, yeah. They were not super cheap when they were new, but they were way cheaper than a poly. So a polysynth is a synthesizer where you can play more than one note at a time. So like the subfatty behind Carissa, which is probably not even visible on screen.
Probably not.
I can only play one note at a time. I can't play chords.
Gotcha.
But keyboardists want to play chords.
Right, just like a pianist would. You want to be able to get
And
full 8 octaves or however many.
Right. And in that era, synthesizers, there were some, but they were very, very expensive. The Prophet 5 and things. And Yamaha came out with this digital technology called frequency modulation synthesis. And I don't know that you can actually see it on your camera, Jared, but behind you I've got a couple books on frequency modulation synthesis. Because this is the part we don't talk about on the podcast very much, but there's a reason we talk about synth memes a lot on the podcast. So shout out to my synth memes guys. But I'm a synth dork.
Right.
I've made a couple of electronic albums.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in a room full. I think there's 7 keyboards in this room.
There's an organ. Is that right?
Yeah, this is an old Wurlitzer. This has got a tube amp in it. Above the DX7 is my Kawai K5 that was given to me by Cody, who's a friend of the show. Above that is a Korg MS-20 controller that just controls the computer. And I've got...
You're getting off topic.
Yeah, I get off topic. So, anyway, so that's kind of the background of the DX7, what it is. It's the sound of the 80s. Michael Jackson's Bad.
Yeah.
That keyboard was all over it.
Law and Order.
Oh, and it is the sound of Law and Order. The keyboard from the Law and Order,
which is so distinct,
is that keyboard.
That's cool.
So this one on the underside of it has orange spray paint that says Berkeley.
Ah.
It originally would have been owned by the Berkeley synthesis department. They would have had them multiple in labs.
Not Berkeley.
College of Music, not California.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is in Boston.
I get confused on that one all the time.
Yeah, everybody does. Yeah. And across...
But there would have been a lab of focus on...
that keyboard.
That keyboard alone.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, because that keyboard is how you teach how frequency modulation works. Frequency modulation, it's two sine waves. So a sine wave is just a smooth up-down, rounded, right? And you take the second sine wave, and what you do is you change the pitch of the first sine wave by where this one is.
Okay.
And it becomes very theoretical and kind of hard to wrap your head around. So it's great having a keyboard
that can do it and be like this note and that note, this sound, here's your sharp, here's your flat.
Exactly. And I'm working on an album now, my Volca album. I think this one might be it. Nope.
Is it this one?
This is the drum machine. Is that one white?
No.
Nope, that's the keyboard.
The white one's not up here.
That's okay. I've got 6 of these things.
It is.
They all do different...
vertical there.
Yeah, they all do different sounds, but I'm making an album. Welcome to the train wreck, everybody. We got a train wreck for you.
I don't want to break anything.
No, that's okay. What these are the posters.
That comes from the announcements. Please don't get ahead of yourself.
Okay. So anyway, I'm working on an album, and Korg makes a box that makes the same sound as the DX7. Nope, this is the kick. It's in there. There's more of them.
It's standing right.
Yeah.
There.
Nope, it's not the white one.
Oh.
Anyway, so I'm working on an album, but I bought this in college.
Yes.
From Berkeley.
From the music store across the street.
Okay.
So Berkeley would have sold it to them, and then they turned around and sold them. I think I think the guy actually called me. Somebody alerted me to the fact that they had them. I think I was in a class and somebody was like, hey man, they got DX7s across the street. And I'm like, how much? And they're like, I think I paid $250 for the keyboard.
Which for a college kid was
a lot of money, but
was a
for
lot
a
of money.
keyboard is not a lot of
right
money.
compared to a piano or
Right. So I was like, oh, I'm going. So I called my dad and I'm like, because I didn't have the bread. I was like, can I get this keyboard? And he's like, all right, you can get the keyboard. And apparently, this was before we were dating.
No, this was while we were dating.
Really?
Oh, so
Yeah.
you've been, yeah.
This was after we started officially dating.
Okay. So I had agreed to come have dinner with you
Yes.
at the cafeteria,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't show. Because I was across the street
Uh-huh.
buying a keyboard.
And he didn't show. And he didn't show. And I waited for a very, very long time.
Well, I had to try it out. I had to make sure every function was working. Okay, I'm
And right before I'd gone
They're
into the
fun.
cafeteria, I'd confirmed, hey, you're on your way over, right? And he's like, yes, I'm on my way over.
yeah, and then I think it was, I'm just going to stop in and get this keyboard.
Yeah.
It was kind of the first time you realized what you were in for. Like,
Well, he basically bought the thing,
Did he carry it
played with
under
it.
his
I did.
arm?
carried it under his
did.
arm all the way back to the dorm,
And
which
it
was
weighs
like a couple
40
blocks away.
pounds. It's heavy.
Well, I'm picturing him like walking across the street to the cafeteria to have lunch with you. With
Oh,
Yes.
with
no,
the
I would have
DX7
preferred
under-
that.
Yeah.
No, you had actually left. You had left. I went and I ate, and then I went back to the dorm with it. I
No.
actually had it in the cafeteria with me that day.
No, you told me you took it back to the dorm first, and that's why you were so late.
Oh, maybe that's what happened.
Because I would have preferred if you had showed up with it under your arm.
I want to point out I was very quickly forgiven
Right.
because it is a DX7, and they had 2 of them in the store, and they were both snatched up that day.
And the caveat is you're never allowed to get rid of it because of that.
Ever.
Ever.
I stood.
It
you
is a
up.
reminder of how you stood me up.
Legend. I'm like a legend on the synth memes because I told this story in a,
Oh, really?
in a comment thread. And they're like, oh my God, you stood a girl up to buy a synthesizer.
That is pretty.
And then she married you. It's
Right.
like, that's how you know you have a keeper, right?
Right. So you can't sell it.
I'm not allowed to sell that one.
Ever.
Ever.
I'm burying you with that thing.
Probably. It needs a battery. The internal battery needs changing, but you got to like desolder it.
Oh, it's like
Yeah, it's soldered in, so I'm going to have to like either have it serviced or do it myself.
But in the meantime, you plug it in.
That's another project you should take on, Dawn, is like servicing DX7s, you know.
Where?
Yeah, I'm out of room, man. I'm like trying to scrounge up enough space to do manufacturing.
Where? Seriously, where?
There was some sarcasm there.
Yeah. The problem is, like, you know, I've always been this guy. I can't really afford to pay people to do things for me.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Like, whenever I wanted to make records, I couldn't afford studio time, but I could afford a piece of software or a microphone or one thing at a time.
Right.
And
20
20 years later,
here you are. You've got
a room
full
and a
of
house.
things that make noise.
Oh, yeah.
And record noise and change noise.
And
Yeah.
downstairs is, you'll see on the Freeform Fridays, that's downstairs. We actually run a snake through the house. So we record up here, but everybody's playing downstairs.
That's what I nearly trip over on the stairs.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You get used to it.
Yeah. So that's why I'm not allowed to sell my DX7
Ever.
ever. And you're awesome.
I think you're awesome too.
Yeah. All right, what's next?